Kinoteki is an artist I have been aware of for a little bit of a while now. They aren't an artist I know a great deal about. When you go on their social media pages and stuff, they seem to keep it low key in terms of, you know, identity and things. I haven't really done that much research in that sense, but just on a basic sort of quick scroll through the Twitter and things, I don't really know much about them as an artist, but what I do know is that they've been putting out some really cool atmospheric drum and bass music for a little bit of a while now. And last year, in fact, they did put out an album which I was really impressed with. In fact, I think it went a little bit under the radar, to be quite honest with you. I think it deserved a bit more attention than it got, but a really good way for an artist of this kind of small niche stature to generate a bit of buzz is to release in the first month of the year, because at this point we don't really have many big releases. In fact, the biggest release we've really had so far this year, you could argue, is that Shakira song or maybe the Miley Cyrus song, but otherwise we don't really have many big albums coming out. We don't really have many big artists, you know, announcing things. This is just a time of the year where it's a little bit quiet, and I think if you want to kind of generate that niche buzz across music circles on sites like Rate Your Music, Album of the Year, or maybe even other sites like Bandcamp and other music forums out there, I think now's the time to release. And with all that being said, before I keep rambling on and on and on, I think this is the best Kinoteki album I've heard so far. In fact, I'm going to go as far as saying that this is the first great 2023 album that I have heard. Yes, I know, let's give a round of applause for Kinoteki, the first great album of the year. Yes, that is a big, big praise from myself here, but it is absolutely deserved because I think this is just a fantastic album that culminates so many cool styles and genres and fusions and influences all onto one album that just made for a really, really enjoyable listen for me. Opening track opens things up, right? Immediately a whirlwind of weird sounds and odd things going on that you can't quite make out. It's really spacey, it's really psychedelic, to be quite honest with you. And then you hit a certain point in the track where the drum and bass just really starts to crash together. I mean, the drums sound fantastic. It's an absolute festival of drumming this point in the song. But everything up until that point, I mean, dare I call it psychedelic drum and bass? Is that even a thing? But seriously, it is very much on that level because there's so many weird little elusive, strange sounds that are happening. And it's really hard to make out, but it sounds cool as hell. And from this point, you've just got fantastic fusions of ideas going on. MasterCard transports you to like the club 2000s era of like club bangers and stuff. Particularly in the UK, there were a lot of tracks that sounded like this. This is just done really well. You've got Helium Dreams, which might be my favorite track on the whole thing, but the Footwork influence on this track goes crazy, and I'm so glad to hear some Footwork this year because I think it's always been a genre that's been unsung and underrated and really underappreciated. So to hear an artist like this do it so well, I'm just so happy about. The vocal like sample that's sort of worked into this track as well works really well, but it sounds so strange. Like, I don't know how it has any right to work in the way it does, but it really does work, I can promise you that. And this is one of the things I like about Kinoteki and this album generally, just the appreciation for different styles and bringing them together in such a cool way. And it all sounds good. I mean, that's the best part about it. It's not like it sounds really shoddy or really limp or just sounds a bit meh. Nothing on this album sounds like that. I mean, In My Mind, again, just has this really haunting presence with the vocal sample. It's not really the most standout track in terms of the drumming and the kind of footwork influence and things like that, or even any of like the sort of jungly drum and bass influence. But it does sound really cool. And again, the attention to detail with some of these vocal layers that come through is really cool. Again, with How to Fall Out of Love, the Juke influence coming through, it sounds fantastic. Ecstasy and Limbo, one of the most interesting tracks for me on the whole thing. I mean, I'm trying my best not to make too many comparisons here, but when it is a smaller artist, I think it can help them a little bit along the way just to kind of intrigue people. Because I don't say this lightly, but this track is like classic 2011 Clams Casino era. Like, honestly, I don't know why I just said era. That's really American. Era, man. Era. I'm British. Era. Just how it really washes over you and makes you feel like you're floating. It's a really unique sound that only that era of music really captured. An artist like Clams Casino, and by the way, when you mention Clams Casino, do not disrespect Friend Zone. Friend Zone, my friends. Friend Zone. That style of music from those artists from that time is really, really thrown into this track here, and it just transports you back to that time. But yeah, Friend Zone. Why does no one talk about Friend Zone? Clams Casino has to be mentioned with Friend Zone. They have to be mentioned together. The mammoth-sized closer as well. Oh my lord. This track is just a fantastic way to end things out because it really encapsulates everything that was being done up until this point onto this 10-minute track. And it's just so great to hear because it just sounds like all of the ideas just kind of like spread out on the track in a really cool way. It's a really fantastic song, and for it to be so long in this genre and style of music, I would really be almost put off by that, but I am not with this song. It's great. And Third Strike, gotta mention Third Strike, one of the best tracks here. The friggin' DJ Rashad, friggin' RP boot influence coming on this track. Come on, man, come on. Don't tell me I didn't pick up on that. Come on. So bloody good. And one of the best things about it is how Kinoteki doesn't just do that style or pick up on those kinds of influences. They push it even further by fusing it with some kind of weird digicore breakdown about 3 minutes into the song. It seriously is a weird moment, but it sounds great, and it's just kind of, again, showing this nice fresh approach into blending and fusing styles of music together when it's just not doing one thing all the time. It's a really cool album in that sense. It's ever growing in all these different directions, and that moment on that track was great for me. But the influences I love as well, like I say, all of these Juke, Footwork, jungle, drum and bass stuff coming through, fused together while also pushing some of the aspects of those genres into slightly different directions, like I just said with Third Strike. Really reminds me actually of a pretty recent album, and also my album of the year last year, Breakance, where Breakance was doing a similar thing where he'd pull from different styles of music but push it in a slightly more modern direction and make things a little bit different and put his own spin on it. And I think Kinoteki is doing that similar sort of thing for a different style and genre of music, and I'm all for it because all of this is done so well for me. So yeah, I think it's great. I really do think it's great. I've seen some odd takes being floated around about this album. This is one of the things with an album that gets released early in the year, because music nerds are so desperate to try some new things because there's not really much out, that they might jump onto something but not really be familiar with the genre of music that's being done. I mean, like I say, Footwork, Juke, maybe even jungle and drum and bass are pretty underappreciated genres as far as music goes. So I think if people aren't really that familiar with these styles, jump into this album and think, it's all a bit all over the place, then they're not really going to pick up on all the great little details that I think Kinoteki brings to the table here. So I would say explore the genres that they are, you know, pushing around and throwing around on this album before you try this, really, because it's a really cool little celebration of different styles. I think it's great. It's certainly made for a man like me, and I'm going to go 8 out of 10. I think this is a great album, going to be one of my year-end list albums already. It's nice to have one so early in the year, and it's a great one that I'm going to keep going back to for the rest of the year. So thank you for watching this review. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. Would love to hear what you guys think. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out this album, check out my Patreon, and support me over there as well, and tell me your thoughts in the comments as always. Have a good day. Goodbye.